The Philadelphia Eagles have already made a bunch of different moves and new acquisitions through free agency this offseason, and it seems like they've gone out and addressed most of their needs, and they can now turn their attention to the NFL draft. But if we do know anything about the Philadelphia Eagles and Howie Roseman, then we know that they're a team that consistently is able to make impact moves later in free agency, and just recently a new player has become available on the free agent market that might be the perfect addition for the Eagles, and it seems as if the Eagles might be interested in signing him. And we're going to talk all about that in this video today. Before we do that, make sure you go down and subscribe to the channel for more consistent Philadelphia Eagles content coming throughout the entire offseason. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and drop a like on this video if you do enjoy. Now, with all that being said, let's get into the video. If there's one position that has been in the spotlight for the Eagles pretty much this entire offseason, it has been the safety position, as at the start of free agency, both the Eagles starting safeties from last season in Marcus Epps and CJ Gardner-Johnson were set to hit the open market, and the possibility of losing either one or both of those guys became a real possibility. And then on the first day of free agency, one of those things became a reality, as Marcus Epps signed a 2-year contract with the Las Vegas Raiders worth $12 million. And just like that, already one of the Eagles starting safeties from the 2022-23 NFL season was gone, and they had a hole at that position. But I think a lot of Eagles fans knew that Marcus Epps might be on his way out the door, because the Eagles simply couldn't re-sign everybody that was set to hit free agency, and Marcus Epps, while he was a good player, he wasn't a great player, and I think a lot of people knew he was not a top priority for the Eagles to bring back this offseason, so that wasn't such a shocker. And I think the focus for a lot of Eagles fans at this point in the offseason was, focused all in on the CJ Gardner-Johnson situation, as pretty much all Eagles fans wanted this guy back. At the start of free agency, at the start of the offseason, they were calling him the #1 priority for the Philadelphia Eagles in terms of free agents that they want to bring back to the team, because he was a really good player for them in his 1 year with the team. He had probably the best season of his entire career. He's a versatile player, and he was also at a very young age at 25, and people thought he could be a building block for the Philadelphia Eagles defense moving forward. And he was definitely thought to be one of the best free agents on the market. So it was interesting to see that CJ Gardner-Johnson went unsigned for the first week of the free agency period, and that whole week was pretty drama-filled. We got the news that his market wasn't nearly as high as he thought it was going to be, and in the end, we obviously know that CJ Gardner-Johnson left the Philadelphia Eagles for the Detroit Lions, as he signed a 1-year, $8 million deal with the Lions with $6.5 million in guaranteed money. And, the situation in the end, it just dragged out too long for the Philadelphia Eagles to retain him, because in those first few days when he made it clear that he was going to see what the market had to offer him, the Philadelphia Eagles had to switch their direction. They had to switch focus, and it turned from CJ Gardner-Johnson to, re-signing other players like Bradbury, or figuring out the whole Darius Slay contract situation. And in the end, CJ Gardner-Johnson ended up leaving the Philadelphia Eagles. And obviously at this point, the Eagles had then lost both their starting safeties in Marcus Epps and CJ Gardner-Johnson from the previous season, and it left a huge hole at that safety position. And we all knew that the Eagles had to go out and do something to address it. And it was at this point that a lot of rumors started to fly around, and I think the main one that a lot of Eagles fans wanted to see become a reality was the rumor that Kevin Byrd could potentially be coming to Philadelphia. And obviously, Kevin Byrd coming to the Eagles would be a great addition for them, and it would be a great fit, because Kevin Byrd, he's one of the best safeties in the league. He has been his entire career. But the problem with Kevin Byrd coming to Philadelphia is how much it would cost to actually go out and acquire him, because Kevin Byrd, next season, he's due around $14 million, and he has a $19 million cap hit. So if the Eagles were to trade for him, that obviously would be a big hit against the salary cap, and something the Eagles probably couldn't quite afford to pay. And if he were to be cut, and then the Eagles would go out and sign him, he'd probably want something similar, because if he were to be cut, it's because he refused to take a pay cut. So I don't know how likely it would be that he restructures his contract, or he tries to sign a little bit of a cheaper deal to come to Philadelphia. The Eagles just probably were not going to pay whatever price tag he was looking for anyway, so that option obviously never ended up coming to fruition. But what did happen is that the Eagles went out and signed former Steelers safety Terrell Edmunds to a 1-year contract to address that safety position. And Terrell Edmunds is a guy who's going to surely come in and be a starter for the Eagles. And when this happened, I thought it was a great move, because Terrell Edmunds is 26 years old. He's still at a young age. It's a 1-year, very, very cheap signing for only $2 million. And he's been a very solid player over the course of his entire 5-year career with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I've already talked plenty about this, but just to go over it again real briefly here, Terrell Edmunds is a consistent player. He's going to give you consistency. Every single year he's been in the league, he's put up good numbers, and he's also been on the field, as he's pretty much never really had a serious injury so far through the course of his NFL career. And his numbers, again, like I said, they look solid. Last year he had 70 tackles, 41 solo tackles, and 2 sacks. And over his entire career with the Steelers, he has 410 total tackles, 276 solo tackles, 5 sacks, and 5 interceptions. And again, one of the other great things about this signing is that they got him for very cheap. 1-year, $2 million low-risk, high-reward deal fits in with the theme of pretty much all the other additions the Eagles have made in free agency this offseason as well. I think next year he's going to have a solid year, and it's definitely a good move. And now at this point, the Eagles starting safeties are Terrell Edmunds and Reed Blakenship. And Reed Blakenship was really, really impressive last year in the opportunities that he got. He's obviously an undrafted rookie that came in last season when he had the opportunity when CJ Gardner-Johnson went down with an injury, and he stepped up, he played well, and he proved that he could be a solid player in this league. And Nick Sirianni was recently asked how he felt about Blakenship taking on a bigger role next season and potentially being the starter, and this is what he had to say about it.
Yeah, I think Reed did a nice job last year of playing a lot of meaningful plays and starting games last year, and so no doubt do we have confidence in him. We had confidence in him on a 16-4 team last year to start games, and so we have a lot of confidence that he can do the same thing this year. Hey, this guy is going to be good. This guy's going to be good. So. And he played well when he was in last year. As far as the depth at safety position is coming together, right? But you're never a finished product. I mean, we got Chauncey at the end of training camp, right? And so we like the room that we have right now, and we'll see what we do to continue to go with that.
So these comments are obviously very interesting. For one, he expressed confidence in Reed Blakenship, saying he could be a good player, and they definitely have confidence in him, and they believe that he can get the job done. But he also didn't close the door on adding another safety to the roster, saying at the end that they added CJ Gardner-Johnson late in the offseason last year, just 9 days before the start of the regular season. So he definitely did not shut down the possibility of the Eagles going out and adding another safety. And just because he expressed confidence in Reed Blakenship does not mean that it is set in stone that Blakenship will be the starter next year. And I like Reed. I think it would be great to see him get his opportunity to start, and I think he could have success in that role, but it's not a sure thing. The guy was an undrafted rookie, and although he played well last year, it was a small sample size, and you don't know what Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles front office is thinking. You don't know if they're confident in him. Just because Nick Sirianni expressed publicly that they have confidence in him doesn't mean that's what they're saying behind the scenes, and they might be looking to go out and add another safety. And I honestly think that that's a real possibility, and I definitely wouldn't be mad if they went out and added another safety that's a good, solid player at a good price. And just recently, it seems as if a player that fits that exact description has become available on the free agent market, as just a few days ago, the Seattle Seahawks withdrew the restricted free agent tender on safety Ryan Neal, making him an unrestricted free agent. And this could definitely be an option for the Philadelphia Eagles at that safety position moving forward if they do want to add another safety. And Ryan Neal is a very good player, and he's coming off a career year. In 2022, Ryan Neal put up some really good stats. He had 66 total tackles, 45 solo tackles, a sack, 2 forced fumbles, an interception, and 8 passes defensed. And this is great production, not to mention that he did it in a limited amount of snaps, as he only played in 14 games last season for the Seahawks, and he only started in 10 of those games. He was limited by injuries at the beginning and the end of the season, I do believe. And, obviously, if he played a little bit more throughout the course of the season, those numbers could be even better. Something else that's promising about Ryan Neal is, for one, he's only 27 years old, and every single year that he's been in the league, he's improved his game, and it's culminated in his breakout year that he had last year. But I think, judging by where Ryan Neal has come from, because he was an undrafted rookie free agent back in 2018, and he actually was on the Eagles, and ultimately he just didn't end up making the roster for them that year. But ever since that point to now, it shows that he's a very, very hard worker, because like I said, he's improved pretty much every year he's been in the league, and he went from an undrafted rookie free agent to where no one really wanted to give him a shot now to being a very quality starting safety in the NFL. And obviously that's something that, is really important to have at any position. The Eagles, I think, pride themselves on having a great culture in their locker room and having high character guys and really hard workers. Obviously their quarterback is a perfect example of that, and Ryan Neal would be another guy that fits that mold. And Ryan Neal, just looking at his game as a player, he's a very well-rounded player. Against the run, he's pretty good. He had 25 stops last season. He's definitely pretty solid in that area. And then he's great in pass coverage. He was the number 3 ranked safety by PFF last season mainly because of how good he was in pass coverage. And, that's really what Ryan Neal is known for, is his ability to, stick with receivers and tight ends, and just, he's a really good coverage safety, and I think that that's something really important. And something else to note about Ryan Neal is that he played under Sean Desai last season, the Eagles' new defensive coordinator, so that's something else that links Ryan Neal to the Philadelphia Eagles. And if he were to come in under Sean Desai, since he's played under him before, I think that familiarity would definitely help him have continued success and build on what he was able to do last season. And yet again, another thing that would be a positive about bringing in Ryan Neal is that he would be very, very cheap. I mean, his restricted tender was only worth around $2.6 million, and the Seahawks, for some reason, I don't know why, they didn't want to pay that, so they just put him on the restricted free agent tender, and I don't even know, they rescinded it. So I'm not sure exactly what the Seahawks are thinking. I think he was one of their better players on defense last season, 100%, no doubt about that. And, you know, again, he would not be very expensive for the Eagles to add to their roster. His value would be around that $2.6 million mark, maybe a little bit more. I would say, you know, it can't be much higher than that. And the Eagles could definitely afford this if they wanted to go out and make a move, because they have $21 million in cap space, which somehow the Eagles are 7th in the entire NFL right now in cap space. So they definitely have enough money to go out and sign Ryan Neal if they would like to do that. And it would definitely make a lot of sense for them to add him to their roster. And now there's a report just recently that's out there potentially confirming that the Eagles do have, in fact, interest in signing Ryan Neal, as NFL Notifications on Twitter says, rumor, safety Ryan Neal is now an unrestricted free agent. The Eagles, Rams, and Chargers are all expected to have interest. And, you know, based on everything I just said about Ryan Neal, this is obviously fantastic news, because I think adding Ryan Neal to the Eagles would be a great addition. Now, something that I thought about recently, which, you know, kind of doesn't make sense to me about this whole Ryan Neal situation, is why wouldn't the Eagles have an interest in him when he was on that restricted free agent tender? Because, you know, obviously it's not like the Eagles couldn't go out and negotiate with him if they did want to, in fact, bring him in. And then, you know, now that the Seahawks have rescinded that, now the Eagles reportedly have interest, which I think is interesting. I don't know why that interest wasn't there before, but, you know, getting back to this report, NFL Notifications might not be 100% the most reliable source to look at to get your NFL news, but they've definitely been right plenty of times before. They have a whole thread on Twitter, you know, listing all these things that they've got right before in the past. So it's definitely something that's a real possibility, definitely something that I would trust, and it's a report I think we have to take seriously. And again, like I said before, I think adding Ryan Neal would be a great addition, and I also think he would be a good complement to Terrell Edmunds, you know, as the two starting safeties of this team. Terrell Edmunds is a guy whose his style of play is a little bit more aggressive in terms of tackling, and he's just a secure tackler. I think he's a better run defender. He plays up in the box a little bit more. Ryan Neal's a guy who's really, really good in pass coverage, and I think the two of them would be great complements to each other. I mean, there's just a lot of different aspects. I've talked about pretty much everything so far, but there's a lot of different aspects of this potential addition that I really, really like, especially if it's for cheap. I mean, I think you can't go wrong with going out and signing him to a cheap deal, because I think he's another player that, you know, if you bring him in, he's going to be a guy that's, you know, he's cheap, he doesn't cost a lot, and it's low risk, high reward, because I think, you know, he's been improving every year of his career, and I think he would have a lot of success here in Philadelphia. But let me know what you guys would think about this. Should the Eagles go out and sign Ryan Neal? Let me know all your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. I know this video was a little bit all over the place, so I apologize for that, but do let me know if you did enjoy as well, and show it by dropping a like on this video. Again, if you did enjoy the video. I said video like 4 times just then, but it's cool. Subscribe to the channel if you want more consistent Philadelphia Eagles coverage coming throughout the entire offseason. And if you want to watch another Eagles video, you can go watch this video right here. Now, with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this video, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.